to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everybody to the October 7th meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown. We'll begin with any board or miscellaneous reports. You guys have reports? Anybody down the side?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I just want to announce that there's going to be a Census 2020 job fair. If people want to apply, there'll be recruiters at Warner Library on Tuesday, October 22nd from 11 to 4 to assist local residents applying for jobs with the Census Bureau. So
The census is going to be taken in April, correct?
It'll start next year, correct?
yeah.
Right, but isn't it, how long do people work for, do you know?
I think it could be like 6 to 9
months,
months.
yeah.
something
Oh,
like
6 to
that.
9 months?
Yeah,
Oh.
it could be through the end of the year.
Okay, so it's a fairly long
Yes.
temporary job.
Yes.
Yes. In addition, the library will be having its book sale Saturday and Sunday, October 19th and 20th, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. There'll be the big white tents in front of the building, so please come and support the library.
Okay, well, I'm going to do some recreation. We have so many things coming up. It's really exciting. This coming weekend, there's the scarecrow making in Patriots Park, which you just kind of show up and bring some old clothes and maybe a pillowcase for a head.
Becky, it's Saturday?
Pardon me?
It's Saturday?
Yeah. Didn't I say Saturday?
Yeah, you said this weekend.
This weekend. Oh, well, let's be more specific, obviously. Saturday, yes. It's
And
going to be
it's-
on Saturday. You want to make this announcement?
No.
Saturday, 10:30 at Patriots Park. We're going to give you the straw and the wooden frames. You bring old clothes and some string to tie your scarecrow together. Hey guys, if you have any old clothes laying around at home and you want to drop them off and for somebody else to use, you can do that as well. And then after that, we'll have window painting on Wednesday. This is all on our website too. And the next one, the following weekend on October 19th, will be our Trunk or Treat, which is a really fun event down at Pearson Park in the parking lot next to the rec center, where we have people decorate their cars and the kids go trick-or-treating from car to car. It's a nice one. It starts at 5:30 on Saturday the 19th. And I'll stop there. There's more, but I'll stop there. No,
Halloween?
there's so much going on.
Halloween parade.
The oh, you want me to do that too? Okay.
Please.
All right.
Your recreation, right?
I know. On Saturday, October 26th, of course, we're having our Halloween parade. It starts at 5:30. There's going to be a big block party with DJ and live music. And if you'd like to, I don't know if you can be in, I guess you can march, participate with the float, or sponsor the parade by going to the Halloween parade has its own website, terrytownhalloweenparade.com, or call the rec department. Thanks. Lots going on.
Rain date?
Rain date, Sunday, the 27th. And I didn't make that up. Anything else, everybody?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just want to, yesterday, Sunday, was National Firefighters Day across the country, and I want to thank all the firefighters who go out and respond for us and run into buildings to save lives, pets, whatever. And of course, I want to thank our fire department. I'm very prejudiced. I think we have the best fire department in the state of New York.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank them.
I just want to remind everybody that the deadline to register to vote is Tuesday, October 16th. You could go to ny.gov and register in under 5 minutes. So please register to vote.
And also that this year early voting
Early voting, yes.
is beginning. I have it here. The days and hours are as follows. Saturday, October 26th and Sunday, October 27th from 12 to 5 p.m. Monday, October 28th, Wednesday, October 30th, and Friday. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the week of the 28th, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, it'll be 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. And Saturday and Sunday, November 2nd and 3rd, before Election Day, from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. And there are designated voting areas throughout the county. They're not all over the place. And if I have it right, Tarrytown residents would early vote at Dobbs Ferry Village Hall at 112 Main Street. In Greenberg, there's 2 places, but Dobbs Ferry should be the site for any Tarrytown resident who wishes to vote early on any of those days. You can check the Westchester County website for all the details if you want to. It's obviously, remembering it from me saying it here is going to be kind of hard. But, okay, that was the only thing I had. Richard?
Okay. This past Saturday, we had a very positive tree planting and dedication ceremony. We planted a tulip tree, a tulip poplar, in honor of its reference in Washington Irving's sketchbook, which we're also celebrating the 200th anniversary of this year. So that was a very nice event attended by Mayor Fixell, Trustee McGovern, Trustee Rinaldi, Trustee Hoyt, and Trustee Brown. So we had a very nice turnout. We had also had Ann O'Brien there from our tree committee and Jim DeSimone from our recreation committee. So, and of course, as always, our Tarrytown, if you want to say TASH Farmers Market at Patriots Park was very well attended. There were a lot of people there. And the Farmers Market is going to continue every Saturday through the Saturday before Thanksgiving, which is November 23rd. And moving on to what's our annual exercise before we eat is the turkey trot, which is going to be on Sunday, November 24th at 9:30, starting and finishing down at Pearson Park and the Recreation Center. And then, of course, we have the annual tree lighting, which is coming up December 7th, starting early this year for either 2:30, 3 o'clock, so that people can come in and have their photos with Santa. And then we'll have the tree lighting around the usual time of something like 5 o'clock. We have other things happening in the community. Let's see. The Hackley School is having their Hudson Scholars Program for low-income students. I think they're looking to assist or support rising 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So they're looking for people or looking to get access to the students who can benefit from these educational opportunities. The library is coordinating with a number of different events. They have the Sleepy Hollow Film Festival, which is happening very soon, and also in coordination with the Tarrytown Music Hall. There's also the Rivertown Dance is having their fall registration is open. Let's see, what other things do we have happening?
Yeah, Rich, we also,
Yes.
at that turkey trot, this year we're doing the kids, the 1 mile gobble trot for kids.
1 mile gobble trot.
Ages 7 to 9. I just wanted to put that out there too. 'Cause
Very good.
The kids can do what they're.
And we did coordinate with Sleepy Hollow, and we will have the same run as we did last year along the Riverwalk
And
between.
of course, the
the-
winners get a
The first winner, the winners in each category get a
turkey.
turkey.
Can we do a gobble trot for 50 plus?
Yeah, not a bad idea.
Parent in each category.
There's a
So
category for
within
you.
each age,
or
the
for
winner
us.
within each age
I think it's supposed
bracket.
to be 60 plus.
60
The
plus?
winner within each age
Okay.
bracket
And
will
that
get a
start, the
turkey.
kids one starts earlier, it's at 9, so that we don't trample them later on.
Yep.
I'm gonna need the ambulance after that, every turkey.
So I also did want to mention a couple of things publicly that we're working on as a result of the work session. The backyard chickens is something that our village attorney and our building department staff, we're going to be working on drafting up some legislation to bring before you at a future board meeting. There's a lot of interest, I know, from the public on the speed hump question related to Miller Park. We are going to be placing the order shortly for the company that manufactures the prefabricated or composite plastic rubberized speed humps. And as soon as we have that order placed, we'll let you know what the lead time is on that.
Rich, can you get
Yes.
the lead time on that before we place the order, in case it's excessively long?
I have a feeling it might be something like 6 to 8 weeks.
So if you could do that, would that be
We'll let
possible?
you know,
Let,
so.
let us know before you actually pull the trigger.
Lead time first. Okay, we'll let you know. Well, I mean, do you want to wait?
I don't know, just let us know
Sure.
when you find that out as soon as
We
you
will
can.
let you know, and
then,
Notify board. Okay, will do. There's a few other things on the agenda tonight. We will be moving ahead, Josh, to try to do the expansion or including additional vehicle charging stations down at the Metro North train station on village parking spots, so we're gonna move ahead with that. And just a reminder, we do have our auditors coming in tonight at 8:30 to give their presentation to us on the annual audit. And we've connected everything up for them to do a PowerPoint presentation. I'm wondering if we want to table the Pearson bench donation, or if you want to just consider that. I went down and took some photos of the waterfront today. There's one spot that I think would benefit the most from a bench. If the board's fine with that, it would actually be north of that circular overlook area at the end of West Main Street.
Pillow
Rich.
Landing.
Pillow Landing.
Could we accept the donation?
We can accept the donation.
Subject to our
subject to
final
approval of the
decision
plan,
on.
And that's fine
okay.
too. Subject to final approval. Since everything is very carefully designed and laid out on the southern section of Riverwalk, I didn't want to interrupt that because all of the other benches are placed on pavers along the side of the pathway. And you don't, we definitely don't want to put anything on the riverside of the path. So, we also have we should have our, who's that here? Okay.
One of them is them.
No, that's fine. And just, we did have an appointment at the last work session of Louis Martirano. We were hoping he'd be able to join us tonight. He is our new village superintendent of public works, and he has a career in both public service and in private construction. And he will be, Howard Wessels is going to be retiring. His last day is going to be Monday, I believe, November 28th. I'm sorry, October 28th, thank you. And Lou Martirano will be starting on Monday, October 21st. So we'll have at least 1 week of overlap. So, and I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Rich, can you just touch briefly on the trees that were planted by the EF students? I know they were put up around the lakes. Like today, there was 4 of them planted that I saw.
Oh, were there?
Yeah, they put 4, and I hope it was, I mean, that's the only place we were
Okay.
talking about. But they were up there today, and they.
This was
put-
up at the S-turn?
This was up at the S-turn.
Okay,
Yeah.
the village was approached by students at the EF school to do something to benefit the earth and try to address or work cooperatively with us to address climate change. So we recommended that we plant some trees to replace those that have been blown over in past storms. I think especially Hurricanes Irene and the tropical storm impacts we had from Hurricane Sandy blew over a lot of trees all around Westchester, and certainly Tarrytown was not spared from that either. So we proposed to plant a number of trees in the vicinity of the S-turn because the students can walk off the county trailway that goes alongside the lakes and go see where the trees
Right.
were planted. And we're looking to continue to expand on that to restore the forest canopy
Yeah.
and put trees back in the area.
Mr. Mayor, one other quick thing. I'm sorry, I think thanks need to go out to TIAC for the eco-friendly pass.
Yes.
They also, so thanks to Karen Brown for reminding me on that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, the orders aren't here, so we'll go on to extension of work agreement for the intern at the building department. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown is hereby authorize an extension of the work agreement with Mariana Rice as building department engineering intern at an hourly rate of $25 per hour, with hours not to exceed 17.5 per week through January 31, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we not have public comment? Is there no public comment on this agenda?
Only for,
Should be now, since we don't have any public hearings.
for things on the agenda.
Yeah, items on the agenda.
Yeah, public comment.
Okay,
So it should be after the introduction?
If,
Public comment.
do we not have any public comment on items on the agenda? I don't know if you guys are here for items on the agenda or for at the end of the meeting.
We're here to complain at the end.
Okay.
Then we'll put you at the end.
Oh, we're gonna be here till at least 11 o'clock.
Okay, no one else is in the audience. Authorization to accept a donation of a park bench. Be it resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Village of
wait,
Tarrytown
did
does
you
hereby
ever
authorize
vote anything on
acceptance
that?
of a park bench from Richard S. Cohn to be placed in Pearson Park at a site to be determined at a future time.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Here are the orders. Extension of the snow and ice agreement with the state of New York. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown is hereby authorized and direct the village administrator to enter into an agreement for the 2019-2024 extension snow and ice agreement with future provisions for the extensions renewals with the state of New York for reimbursement for the village's snow plowing of Route 9 Broadway.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
All in favor?
Aye.
So you guys are from Naraki and Smith, I
Yes.
assume?
Yes.
Might as well, should we put them on now?
Towards 8:30.
Why don't you do,
We got
why don't
two
you
more?
do 9 and 10 and then we'll put them on?
Okay, hold on. We'll do 9 and 10, we'll break there.
Yeah, yeah.
Village DPW Facility Leasing Agreement, be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby authorize and direct the village administrator to renew the lease agreement between the Village of Tarrytown and the Union Free School District of Tarrytown, of the Tarrytowns, to lease a portion of the village DPW facility to be utilized by the school district for bus repair purposes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have a license agreement with 31 Birch Way. Whereas in the past few weeks, during the installation of curbs along Birch Way and Leroy Avenue, an issue came up at 31 Birch Way, and whereas many years ago, a split rail fence was installed and shrubs were planted at 31 Birch Way in the village's right-of-way, and whereas during the installation of the curbs, the owner has requested the village's permission to keep the split rail fence and shrubs in the village's right-of-way, and whereas the homeowner of 31 Birch Way will be responsible for maintenance and improvements to the fence and shrubs, and whereas the village will not be responsible for repair or replacement of any of these items if the village has to go back and do work in the village's right-of-way, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown hereby authorizes the village administrator to enter into and sign a license agreement with James Anor, Pasqualina, Patty McVeigh, 31 Birch Way, to allow the split rail fence and shrubs to be restored in the village's right-of-way, with the understanding that the shrubs must be maintained so that they do not encroach on the road.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
All in favor?
Aye.
I guess I might as well keep on going, yeah. Surplus equipment, the DPW dump truck. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby declare the following Department of Public Works dump truck as surplus. 1994 Mack dump truck, Department of Public Works, VIN number 5895.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we're gonna revoke head-on parking at the Washington Street parking lot. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby abolish the regulation for head-on parking only at the Washington Street parking lot.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
How many of you knew that that there was that regulation? I certainly did. We're gonna schedule a public hearing on residence requirements. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby schedule a public hearing for the regular meeting of October 21, 2019, at 8 p.m. in the Municipal Building, 1 Depot Plaza, Tarrytown, New York, to hear and consider a proposed amendment to the Code of the Village of Tarrytown, Chapter 52, Residency Requirements, Section 52.2, Village, County, or bordering, that's the name of this, Village, County, or bordering county residency for the purpose to remove the position of Superintendent of Public Works from this requirement, since this position is not a public officer under the definition of the law. Therefore, the person in this position is not required to live in New York State.
So moved.
All in favor? That's just for a public hearing at the next meeting. And then, okay, now we'll, yeah, yeah, okay. The two
No, I was
guys.
gonna say let the,
Yeah, why don't you guys, you have
but
public
be
comment?
nice,
Since
Peter.
we're done with the regular agenda.
I know you, Peter, be nice.
Yeah, I know,
All right.
I'm gonna behave myself.
Or we'll make you listen to the audit.
Yeah.
you go make-
Very interesting, I know, and I appreciate you, I gotta go home and go to bed.
Right.
Anyway, thanks for letting me speak.
Identify yourself, I'm sorry, and your
I'm
address.
Peter Bartlett, I'm a resident, I live up on 12 South Broadway. Also the volunteer village arborist and tree commission, so I got a little juice.
Sap.
You know, so just, and I guess you guys had addressed it, my friend Michael had heard that there was discussion about purchasing the lot on Nepperton Avenue. So I just was wondering if there was anything in the works about having people with permits that have the monthly permit to be able to park there at some point. You know, one of the things that I've noticed is the lot is really, it's underutilized during the day. Typically, that lot is full when the music hall's in session or on a Friday or Saturday night, you know, and actually the South Broadway lot, which I typically park in, fills up before that lot does. And, you know, and for me too, obviously, I don't know if you saw it one leg, you know, I work full-time, I've got a pretty, you know, arduous job, but sometimes it's a little rough and it's difficult for me, so I live right down, across from Subway, and the lot there, you know, it would be, this is personal, obviously, it's not, but it would be certainly a lot easier if that lot was available for people who buy the, you know, the monthly permits.
You live at 2 South Broadway, you said?
12 South Broadway.
12 South Broadway.
It's the first one right up,
Right.
going south.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
over there. You know, and listen, I don't know what the situation is, but I know apparently you guys are in the process of doing something with that lot. But I was just wondering if, you know, what potentially is being done, or is there anything in the works for people with permits? Because that's something too, it's just one more thing, and then I'll stop.
Mhm.
You know, we have to compete with people who don't have permits after 6 p.m.
Right.
You know, there's this bum rush to get parking spaces. And, you know, the people with permits, you know, because I go out sometimes at night and I come back and
Don't look
you know,
at me.
there's alternate side. Well, no, I drive by her sometimes. And, you know, and there's the alternate side issue, so it's really, it can be really tricky to, you know,
Right.
because there is alternate side up there at anyway, bam.
Okay, well-
Which parking, I'm sorry, but which
Citibank lot.
parking
Yes,
permit, which parking permit do you have?
I've got the resident one, so I can park in all the municipal lots
Mhm.
around town.
So you want to have that permit covered Citibank if possible?
Right.
Correct.
Well, we'll consider it, and we have a new committee that's looking at all the downtown parking
Okay.
and all the rules and what we want to do with that, so, and I'm on that, so we will,
Should be
we will
nice.
throw that in the mix as to what we take a look at.
All right, cool.
So, I mean, there's a lot of competing forces at work, so.
Totally understand.
And parking is problematic because it is this weird peak time shortage, so that's what that's what we have to wrestle with, is how to deal with that. Right. So that's our big concern, but there's a group of, a resident from downtown, business from downtown, myself, planner, who are gonna be looking at all the downtown parking issues and trying to see if we will change them or not.
All right,
So we'll take a look at it.
all right, thanks.
Okay, sure.
Thanks. See you back again.
Bye. Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.
Is that it? Okay. All right, where am I here? Well, let me just finish this, just administrative stuff, and then you guys can come on. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on September 16th. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees held on September 16th, 2019, as submitted by the village clerk.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the special meeting of the board held on October 2nd. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby approve the minutes of the special meeting of the Board of Trustees held on October 2nd, 2019, as submitted by the village clerk.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And the audited vouchers. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby approve abstract number 6 of audited vouchers in the total amount of $1,373,063.47 as presented by the village treasurer. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Paul?
Yes.
He moved. Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, you were this close. I'm going to vote yes, but I need to abstain from two vouchers. 201-801-0820 and 201-801-0821. These are for PenFlex for the fire department and the ambulance corps retirement, and myself and my two sons participated. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, now, gentlemen.
Thank you. When you click for it? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
partner, had lead responsibility for the audit engagement. With me is Chris Angata. He's a senior manager in the audit division and led the team on a day-to-day basis here at the village. So if you don't mind, just click into the first. And then we'll just walk you through the presentation. We'd be happy to answer any questions as they come up by anybody. So we'll go right through it. So first things first is our scope of services. Naraki Smith.
I'm sorry, let's hold on a minute. We're trying to get Mike to put it up on the air.
Oh, okay.
Throw something at it.
What's he putting there?
There we go.
Oh, there you go.
Excellent. Okay.
So Naraki Smith was contracted to perform an audit of the financial statements for the year ended May 31st, 2019. We also performed an audit of the Justice Court funds. We helped assist in the preparation of the actual financial statements, and we also issue our findings and recommendations on improving internal controls. Just a little bit about the audit itself. We started our field work back July 9th. Our team came on site. So I kind of always lead it off with this because it's our one opportunity to get in front of you guys. We really do appreciate all of the effort that is done by the accounting function here at the village. It's obviously led by Jim, but a lot of people have their hands in it and help us out along the way. We were on site under 45 days before the close, after the close of the village. So just knowing that it's a tight turnaround and we're coming right in and auditing, I mean, the bank statements are barely just getting reconciled and we're already on site. So it's really a tremendous job that is done. We really appreciate not only the audit cooperation, but just having the records ready for us. We come on site, we travel, and everybody's really just fully open and honest, and all the records are there for us. So we really do appreciate that to make us a nice, smooth audit engagement going forward. The annual update document that needs to be filed with New York State was filed on time again this year, so I want to make sure we made you aware of that. So we'll kind of go through the financial statement highlights, just walking you through the report. The first 2 pages and the last 2 pages is our audit opinion. It was a clean or unmodified opinion. There were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies found in the internal controls, and we had no compliance findings as well. The next section of the financial statements from pages 3 through 13 is what's termed the management's discussion and analysis section. This provides a general overview and highlights of the financial statements. It's the only place within the financial statements where there's comparative data. And this is where management actually has a hand in helping us draft this part of the report, where we could talk about various components of the village, what's impacting it on a current basis, what is going to impact it going forward in the future, things of that nature. So it's if you only have a quick couple minutes to breeze the report, breeze that area, that really gives you a good understanding of what happened here at the village. After the management discussion and analysis section is the village-wide financial statements. There are 2 sets of financial statements. The first is the village-wide, that's on the full accrual basis of accounting. So you have your capital assets, your long-term obligations, things of that nature that are recorded here. The big thing that I wanted to highlight and speak about just for a few minutes was the new GASB pronouncement, Governmental Accounting Standards Board, which is what we have to follow. Those are the rules and regulations that the village has to follow, issued what is termed GASB 75, which relates to other post-employment benefits for village workers. About 10 years ago, we had to enact what was then GASB 45, which made the village go out, get an actuarial study done on what the long-term obligation of that was. Based on GASB 45, we were allowed to bring in that large liability over a 30-year period. GASB 75 now, 10 years later, has now changed the way in which we're looking at it, and now we had to put the entire liability on the balance sheet. It's not over the 30-year period anymore. So we had a restatement to the opening numbers of about $46 million to bring the full liability, which was determined to be a little over $71 million, onto the balance sheet of the full accrual statements of the village.
That's basically health and...
Just health. Just health benefits
health
for
benefits or retirees.
Yes, for retirees, and there is a portion of for current employees that will, end up retiring and receiving those benefits. So that was a big change this year that we had to go through.
Is it fair to say that that's the obligation, or the liability, as if today you had to pay
Correct.
it all
Yep.
down.
If
for-
you close the doors today and everybody became fully vested into that,
Right.
that type of a program, that's what the village would owe.
But we're paying it, we're paying the current obligations for those benefits on an ongoing basis.
On an ongoing basis, yes, and you've made those 100%.
But if we went out of business and you had to pay it all up front, that's what that number is?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And then one of the other changes with GASB 75 too was that it kind of directs the actuaries on utilizing certain things. So it became, so it kind of brought it more close to, in comparison to other entities. GASB 45, depending on the actuary you used and what type of assumptions they wanted to go with as far as healthcare cost trends, discount rates, things of that nature, you could get varying numbers in significant degrees type of thing. So this kind of GASB 75 helped acclimate that to get it to a more stratified number that's going to be consistent no matter who you use, no matter what entity you are on a going forward basis. So, so there was a lot of good stuff there. Unfortunately, again, it had a negative impact to the overall financial statements, but it was coming anyway. So now we put everything on. And just give you some more quick highlights for the current year. The village had $6.9 million of capital asset additions to the capital asset of the village. We issued a $6.4 million bond, offset by $3.2 million of current year principal payments that were made on existing bonds. At the end of the year, we had a total of just under $8 million relating to various other pension benefit obligations. If you remember maybe 2 years ago, we talked about GASB 68, where we had to recognize the village's proportionate share of the retirement plans for the ERS system, the PFRS system, as well as LOSAP. So we brought those liabilities on. Again, that's an actuarial report that's given to us by their accountants, and then we use our percentage of that, and then we recognize it on the financial statements. And then we talked about the OPEB liability. So now going to, I mentioned there was 2 sets, so now we're going to the more traditional fund financial statements, which is the fund financial statements. This is what's managed on a day-to-day basis. Your general fund, and I'm not going to go through everything here, but I'll give you some of the highlights, and that's usually the general fund. General fund had a little over $13 million in assets, $1.2 million in liabilities, which left us with $11.8 million of fund balance, of which that fund balance, some of it's restricted for ongoing purposes in various restricted categories. Some of it was assigned to the next fiscal year. Some of it's considered non-spendable because it's already been spent and it'll be recognized in the upcoming year. But the biggest one is our unassigned fund balance, which is free for the village to use going forward, which sits at $6.8 million. Your water fund had as well has a good balance sheet, has total assets of $1.4 million, with liabilities about $900,000, leaving it with a fund balance of $470,000. The makeup of that was about $250,000 is in restricted funds, and $217,000 is in assigned funds for that fund. There was no real variations in the capital projects fund, as opposed to the interfund transfers that led to an increase in cash and things of that nature. And your other funds that you manage on a day-to-day basis, which is your sewer fund, library fund, and special purpose fund, there were no significant variations from last year to this year. On an income statement level, on your general fund, you had total revenues of just over $25 million, total expenses of $23.3 million, and then you had interfund transfers out of a little over $2 million, which left us with a negative change in fund balance for the general fund of just under $320,000. Comparing that to budget, it was actually very positive, so that's why we wanted to throw that in there. Your revenues were actually a little over $400,000 better than what we budgeted for, and your expenses was a little over $900,000 less than we budgeted for. So even though we had a negative change in fund balance, we knew going into the budget cycle that we were going to be using fund balance, and we used less than we anticipated. So it was a positive there for us. Your water fund, again, had revenues of just over $5 million, with expenses and other financing uses transfers out of about $4.6 million, leaving us with a positive change of a little over $400,000 in that fund this year. And your capital projects fund, we had a little over $6.7 million of work or capital outlay that went through this year, with other financing sources of about $8.7 million. So we had that change, as I mentioned earlier, about $3.4 million increase in that fund for capital projects going forward. And then I meant, as similar with the balance sheet, the other major funds that we utilized had no significant variations from last year, so I didn't want to highlight those. After your governmental funds is the fiduciary fund financial statements. That's where the village acts as a trustee for the benefit of others. This is where like the justice court funds are maintained and things of that nature. We can't utilize them in the operations of the village, so they're left off and they have their own set of financial statements, but we are the custodial in nature in that. After those is the notes to the financial statements. Those go from pages 21 to 50. The presentation here and content was consistent with the previous year, except for the two areas that I highlighted. Again, because of the enactment of GASB 75, we have a new OPEB note disclosure, pages 47 through 49. We had one that was already there, but this is updated language and presentation there. And I mentioned that we did have to have the restatement because of the enactment of that, which that the restatement footnote goes on page 50. After the notes, we have supplemental schedules going on for about 11 pages. Again, this presentation of these schedules is consistent with the previous year, with just the new format for the OPEB supplemental schedule, which is on page 56, to adhere to the new format prescribed by GASB 75. Outside of that, everything else is consistent. These schedules are all required by Governmental Accounting Standards Board, or GASB standards, and there are some that we put in as other supplementary schedules. That is the comparative financial statements for, or combining financial statements for the non-major funds that we talked about. So that was just kind of a brief overview, a really brief overview of a very large document. I did mention in the beginning there were no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses found. We had no compliance findings. We had no current year recommendations or suggestions to improve on the internal controls or the policies here at the village. So all in all, this is a very strong report. Hopefully I've conveyed that to you, but it is a very strong and a sound financial presentation of the village. That was kind of it. Just
State of the Union is good.
Yes, it
I
is.
just have a couple of questions.
Of
actually.
course.
So where in the schedules, I'm just interested about, that our revenues were greater and our expenditures were less.
Mhm.
And I would like to know details about that. 'Cause I
If
think
you go to
it's
page 51,
51, that would be.
that is the budget versus actual schedule. There's consolidated numbers obviously there. It's not line by line,
Okay.
but that will give you an understanding. In the revenues, obviously the biggest variance from actual to budget positive was in the licenses and permits area. And then that was offset by some other ones where we had, negatives in. On the expenditure side, just in the general government and the employee benefits is kind of where you usually see that, because when you're making the budget, it's always hit or miss with the increases in employee benefits. But that's where some of the larger variations were on the expenditure side. But we could get you more detail on a specific line-by-line basis if you'd like us to.
Maybe.
Okay, that's
But
fine.
not right now.
We have all the numbers that build into it, I just don't have
Isn't
that
as
schedule
many
here.
numbers as I can handle for now.
Yeah, I understand.
I just have one comment,
Mm-hmm.
and I like the way you summarize, so it lets me go to the pages that you want to point me to. The only thing that, I'm not an accountant guy, so
Mhm.
these acronyms like ERS, PFRS, I don't know what that means.
Those are the retirement systems. So ERS is the Employee Retirement System with New York State,
Okay.
and PFRS is for the New York State Retirement for Police and Firemen.
Okay, but I found OPEB, so I know what that
OPEB, yes, other post-employment benefits.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No,
We
it's
get,
okay.
in presentations, we get locked into trying to be concise, so
So maybe next time it's a little,
we'll spell it out. We'll make sure it's a lot more clear. I apologize for that.
otherwise I'm satisfied with this stuff.
Ladies?
No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Of course, thank you. Appreciate it. Great seeing everyone. Take care. Thank you. And if you need anything on those numbers, Mr. Brown, we'll get them to you.
This There's no one else here to address the board, so I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
You made the
Second?
motion?
Bob, second?
Drew made the motion?
No.
Bob.
Drew made it, I second it.
Did Drew make the motion?
Do I have a second?
Yes.
All in favor? And good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Yes, you make my people.